Welcome back to Andersen Acres. Today we are going to make banana bread in the kitchen. And this is my absolute favorite banana bread recipe. It is rich, it is just sweet enough, and it is full of bananas. So let's get started and have some fun. First thing you're going to need is a loaf pan. I'm using my silicone one just because I prefer silicone. It doesn't stick as badly. But even though we're using silicone, we still do want to coat it just a little bit. I'm just using a canola oil cooking spray, just light spritz, very light spritz. There we go. Set that aside. Don't need that now. We'll need it in a few minutes. Now, before you start mashing your bananas and all that good stuff, what you want to do is make sure your oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, because while you're mixing, your oven can preheat. So that's what I've done. The oven is preheating currently to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and it will be done about the same time we need to get this in the oven. So let's start with our bananas. You will need 2 to 3 overripe bananas. Do not try to do this with bananas that are still yummy. So if you would eat it, they might not be ready. Okay, so you just take your ripe bananas out of the peel. Just chuck them in pieces. I like to break off that end so I don't end up with that stem. Okay, so that's one. Just peel this one. Remember, if your bananas are too firm, this won't work. So these bananas have been sitting an extra few days because they got a little too brown for my son to eat them, because he likes bananas, but not enough to eat them if they're gross. So they got a little bit too brown for him. And then I had to wait even longer, because if your bananas are too ripe, they're just not going to work in your recipe. So let's just throw some bananas in there. See, these are really, really soft. There we go. 2 to 3 bananas. I prefer 3, but 2 works as well. So then just smash them up. You can use your hands. Like, you can get in there and just smash with your hands if you like. They should be soft enough that it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, so you can do that too. You can use your hand and just go smush, 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 smush. No big deal. Okay, so see, that's how your bananas should look when you've smashed them. It's because they should be easily squishable. If you can't squish the banana in your hand and have it turn into banana mash, then it is actually not ready. So you can do it with your hand. You can do it with don't use a mixer. You don't need a mixer. You don't need to dirty a mixer. Okay? There we go. So you can use your hand. You can use a fork. You can use whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, you can use whatever, but they should be smushable with your hands. If you can't smush them with your hands, they're not ready to use in banana bread. Okay, so let's keep going. Just wiping the banana off my hand. So you want about 1/3 cup of melted butter. Use butter just because it really goes well with the banana. Could you do it with a margarine or an oil? Sure. Should you? No. You could. It will change the flavor. Okay, it won't be quite as rich. We're going to do an egg. There we go. Smush that egg up. Give the egg a little bit of a beat. Then mix it in with everything else. Okay? There you go. So it should look like this. It should mix really easily because that banana should be really soft. So we want about a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, not too much vanilla. Mix that in. Now we're going to want a pinch of salt. Literally, just a pinch. Okay? You don't need much salt. You literally only need a pinch. Grab a pinch, drop it in. Then we're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, not baking powder. You want soda in this one, baking soda. Give that a whir. 3/4 cup of sugar. You can increase that to 1 cup if you want it sweeter. I find this recipe is just sweet enough. Okay, get that mixed in. Now you want 1 1/2 cups of flour. You could use a little bit of whole wheat flour. If you are going to use whole wheat flour, do 1 cup of white and a half a cup of whole wheat. Okay, you don't want to do entirely whole wheat. It'll end up too dense. But I'm just using regular flour, regular white flour, regular all-purpose in my case. You can use what you have, but like I said, if you're using a whole wheat or even a rye, please do not overload your bread with those flours. It'll be really heavy and dense. Here we go. There's a cat outside meowing to come in, even though I already was going to let her in. She didn't come. So mix that until it's fairly batter-like. Okay, so scrape it off the sides. Get right to the bottom. You don't need a mixer for this. It doesn't have to be mixed perfectly smooth because it's banana bread. At this point, you could add chocolate chips or nuts or whatever. I'm not going to. I'm just baking a straight banana bread. I can do other variations later, but right now, a straight banana bread is in order. The dog is knocking things over. Yes, because that's what it's like here. Okay, so once it's pretty well mixed, get your pan. Glop this in there. There's not a whole lot of ceremony to this. You just plop it in there. It's mostly bananas. And I'll just scrape that excess out. This takes very little time. This takes more baking time than anything. There we go. There we are. Okay, so then you're going to smooth the top. Roughly smooth the top. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. Don't worry about it that much. Better. And then we're just going to pop that in the oven, and it will take about an hour. So set a timer. You want about 1 hour between when you put this in the oven and when you take it out. So I set myself a 60-minute timer because it's been dead on an hour for me every single time I've made this. Your oven may vary a little, so 55 to 65 minutes. Check at 55 just to make sure you don't overcook it. Remember, it should be dry in the center when you insert a toothpick or wooden skewer in the middle. Should come out fairly clean. So we'll come back in an hour and look at it when it's cooked. All right, so here is our finished banana bread. As you can see, nice and cooked. Now, if you don't want to jam a toothpick in the middle, there are a couple other ways you can tell if it's done. First, you should have a crack running along the top. So if it hasn't cracked, it's not cooked yet. But also, if you look into the corners, not only do the corners look cooked, but they're pulling away from the edge of the pan. That typically tells you that your bread is done. Now, this one baked for exactly 1 hour, and then I cooled it for 10 minutes on a wire rack in the pan. That's important. If you take it out of the pan immediately, it's actually going to crumble and fall apart. So it has been cooling for 10 minutes in the pan on a wire rack. So we're just going to throw that over there. There we go. And let's just cut off a piece. Use a serrated knife. You do want to use a serrated knife and go gently. You don't want to chop your bread to pieces. So gently, gently, gently. And that's what it looks like. You can, of course, add chocolate chips or nuts if you like. Probably about a half a cup to your batter right before you put it into your pan. You don't have to, and you certainly can add both if you like. Personally, I like a combination of walnut and chocolate chip. But this was just a plain banana bread today. So I hope you enjoyed making banana bread with us here at Andersen Acres today. And I really hope you'll give this recipe a try. It is delicious because of the butter and the rich bananas. And I'm sure it'll please your entire family. We'll see you tomorrow.